When you're working on an AI film project, adding new characters into a scene sounds simple, but this is where things usually fall apart. The lighting doesn't match, the performance feels off, or the character just doesn't feel like they belong in the scene. So what I wanted to see was how I could cast a new character for the next scene in my AI video trailer project using Higgsfield Cinema Studio 2.5 and actually have it hold up. And I wanted to see, does this actually work, or is this one of those features that looks good on paper but breaks as soon as you try to use it for storytelling? But before we jump in, real quick, if you're new here, I'm Khalil from AI for Real Life, and I test and break down the newest AI filmmaking tools to see what actually works, what fits into real workflows, and give you behind the scenes look at real projects that I'm building in real life scenarios. And I'll show you what works, what doesn't, the successes, the mistakes, so that we can all level up together and actually become great AI filmmakers as these tools keep evolving. So let's jump in and see if it actually held up. All right, so here we are in Higgsfield AI, and first thing you want to do is go to Cinema Studio 2.5. There's a couple different ways you can get there. You can get there from the top bar, or sometimes I'll have an ad for it as one of the banners, so you can go either way, but go ahead and click into Cinema Studio 2.5. Now, once you're in there, there's a couple of different ways to get started on this project. As you can see, I'm already in one of my projects, but you can either choose an existing project or you can create a new one. If you create a new one, you just go in, you name your project, and you get going. But I already have one that I'm going to be using here, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into that project, because the whole point of this is trying to see if I can create a scene that will fall into line with this whole series that I'm already creating. Right now I'm in the middle of creating a AI cinematic trailer, and I need another character for a different part of this project. So what I decided to do is test out Cinema Studio 2.5 plus their cast feature to see if that's a faster way of getting a cast member that you don't necessarily need tons of details for. Like, the initial character is based on Chubby Checker, so therefore it has to look like him, right? But other people supporting cast based on a true story sort of vibe doesn't necessarily have to look exactly like that person, or it doesn't have to look specifically like anyone, but it will have to look like it belongs in that film and in that era. So that's my whole point of trying this out, to see what we can figure out with this. All right, so after you're in there, this is what you'll see. And at the very bottom is where you start to navigate everything. And what we're trying to do is create a cast member for this. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and make sure that this image button right here is toggled. And you can either do image or video. Video will come a little bit later on. We've already gone over that in one of our other videos also. But what you're going to want to do is start from here. And you have a few different buttons down here to choose from and understand. First one is right here. You can choose the scene, characters, location, or some older models right here with Soul Cinema and Cinema 2.0. But we'll get into specifically the characters, locations, and then scenes later on, and in that order for a reason. And then you can have how many generations you want to do here when you do generate your characters. You can either have a batch set of 4, 2, 1. I think up to, for this one, it looks like it goes up to 4. And then there's the different aspect ratios: 4:3, 16:9, 21:9. Also the resolutions: 4K, 2K, 1K. Characters and locations button here, which we'll jump into a second, and then the generate button. And that's the basic layout for the whole casting part of this. So let's go ahead and jump in and try to make our first cast member. So you go right here, you click on cast, and it'll pop up this option right here. And you can either start on new character or new location. So I'm going to go ahead and click on new character because we're trying to make a new cast member. And I've already done this, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this. All right, so we're down here in the character, and then from here you can describe your character, and you also can go to build your character. So what you're going to do is you're going to go in here and you can first pick the genre. So they've got action, adventure, comedy, drama, thriller, horror, all these different areas. I'm going to go for this one. I'm going to go with drama. And then you have budget in millions. And this is really interesting. I don't know how I feel about this one, but essentially what it means is if you're going to do like an indie film style, then you would keep it at the whole 10 million mark. But then the higher the budget, the more of a blockbuster sort of film and I guess character that you're going to get. And I did the other generations at 250 million, just halfway, just to try it out. But let's go ahead and do this one at the 500 million, just because I did the other ones and I want to see the difference. All right, so next we go to the era, and this one is 1950. So you scroll over to 1950s, that is there. Then we go here, basically you pick out whatever your character is going to be like. Is it going to be the hero? Is it going to be innocent, a caregiver, explorer? For this one, I'm going to use innocent because it is the wife of the executive and she's just, oh wow, he looks like a chubby checker. All right, so that's selected. Next thing we're gonna do is go to identity. And there's a few different options here. This is gonna be a female. You can also choose the race. This lady is white and her age is going to be, let's say, around 30 years old. Next is gonna be physical appearance. For her, we're gonna do average, height, average. Let's go eye color, let's go hazel eyes. We can choose a hairstyle if we want. I'm just gonna roll the dice on this one. Hair texture, gonna roll the dice on this one also. Hair color, I think this character was supposed to have brown hair. All right. So as you can see at this point, we have selected all the physical appearance details. Then we select the next section, which goes into extra details. So do they have a facial scar, freckles, tattoos, eye patch? My character does not have any of these, so I'm going to skip this part. And then the outfit. And you can do custom here or go through one of their already presets. And since this is set in the 1950s, I'm going to use the vintage film look or the vintage clothing look. And we have all of that set up, and looks like you can go actually up to a batch size of 10. And I already ran these, so I'm not going to do a batch size of 10. I'm just going to do a set of 4 just to show you how it works. And there you go. Click generate. It shows you how many credits it will be before you click generate. And there you go. It's starting to generate up there. All right, now while that's happening, I'm going to pick out a couple of the generations that it made for me in the past. And this is actually one of the ones that I went with on some of these generations. And what happens is after it makes the generations, you can go in here and you can save your character for one, and you can also save it as an element. And I'll show you what happens when you do that. Now this get exclusive rights thing, I don't really know exactly what that means. I looked it up a little bit just to understand it. And essentially they're saying that they will not, if you click this and buy this exclusive right, what they're saying is that they will not generate your exact character for anyone else. But every AI character is slightly different, so I don't really know how that works. That's kind of strange. And you can see right here, what it does is it gives you the headshot, front shot, back shot of your character. And you can choose, if it didn't work out for you, they can make some modifications and regenerate. But now, since we have made that our character, next thing to do is jump in and make the location. So you go back down here, click on locations, and then you describe your location. And for this one, I described a 1950s studio with a lounge. And these are some of the selections that I got from that. So it's the same thing. You go through, look at them, see which ones you like or don't like, regenerate, try it again. So now what you do is you go on to scenes, and this is third for a reason, and that's because this is where you combine both your character and your location in order to make the scene. So I can click on scenes right here, and this is when you start to describe your scene. And when you're describing the scene, you can go ahead and click the at button, and then you can start to put your characters into this scene. And there's another way you can do it here. You can go through and do it this way. Now, if you want to see where your cast members are, then that you've selected throughout this thing, they're right here. And you can go through and use them for different parts of your story. All right, so let's jump back into this. And what we're going to want to do now is, because we're creating the scene, what you would do at this point is go ahead and put in a prompt that puts your character into the scene. All right, so you can go ahead and see, look at my prompt right here. What I did was I clicked the add button, and then I got my character, and she is sitting on the couch with her husband, which is a record executive, and I tagged the room, and they're watching, and I tagged Chubby Checker singing in the studio. And then I said the Chubby Checker is wearing a black and white checkered jacket. And that's what it came up with for us, this image right here. All right, and it's the same thing with all these. It's an iterative process. You go through, if you don't like it, you switch it up, switch up the prompt, try something different. But what this did was gave us our characters, our scene, our location, everything mashed up together really easily. I know that if you want a lot of control with these kind of things, this might not work for you, but if you're okay with just getting it looking right with your characters, and then a lot of times you can go from here, take this image, take it back into Nano Banana, whatever, make some modifications if you want to, but this kind of gives you a head start in some ways. All right, so once you've got your scene mapped out, The next step is to go ahead and bring it to life. So then you go down here, you click onto the video section, and then there's the director panel. You can go right here and you can add the characters and props as you've already set up, or you can go down here and add them in with your prompt. So you do the same thing. You select put the character, and it says to her husband, or whatever, the rest of the prompt, and you go ahead and generate it. Now there are a lot of options to go through down here, just so that you know what everything is. You can do it as a single shot, you can do it as a multi-shot, you can do it as a multi-shot manual, meaning that you actually type in each separate part of the multi-shot scene. You can do this at 16:9, 21:9, and all the different aspect ratios. And this part is actually pretty interesting because what you can do, instead of having to prompt in the style and different things like that, you can go ahead and use one of their baked in presets. Sound on or off, how many generations, you can use a start and end frame. So what I'm gonna do is what I did a little earlier. I'm gonna show you how to set this up. So what you would do is if you had an image that you liked and you wanted to go ahead and use that, you can go ahead and click the animate button, and that ends up putting it as your start frame right here. And then you have your start frame, you can put in the prompt, exactly what you want them to do and want them to say or whatever, and then you hit generate, and then you can go from there. So you can do up to 4 generations at a time. Obviously it's gonna get more expensive the more generations you do at a time, but you have a higher chance of everything working out. So let me look at this generation that I did a little bit earlier.
He's better than Fats Domino. He's like a chubby checker.
All right, and as you can see, that's the quality that you're gonna get from this thing. Obviously, the singing part, not great. You'd probably cut that sound out and actually put in some actual good music or do a scene where he's not singing, because that's not what this is made for. But as you can see, it goes from him, multi-shot, cuts to the characters, they say their lines, and you have everything consistent with the style, with the characters, and everything's pretty baked in. So as you see, this is not a long process versus going through and doing everything manually in Nano Banana, jumping over to your video generator and doing each shot, or doing the multi-shot sequence in your video generator. This makes the whole process a little smoother, but you have a little bit, or sometimes a lot less control depending on what you're doing. So essentially this is how Higgsfield Cast and Higgsfield Cinema 2.5 work, and they work together. Now, what do I think about this? I think that it is a powerful tool, especially if you're just beginning. And essentially, if you have a character that you don't necessarily need to have a lot of control over, and if you want to get them in the scene, or if you're trying to make something that is showing the concept of something where you want everything to look like it belongs together, this is a really fast, really easy way to do that. Now, if you need the very detailed scenes and your characters need to look exactly like this or exactly like that, this may not be the way to go, but it's definitely an option. So that's the quick overview on Cinema Studio 2.5 and Higgsfield Cast.